Welcome to what we're affectionately calling the Dueling Mustache Conspiracy Hour. It's a new thing me and the salty paramedic are trying out here. So normally I'm the host of the Hazard Class podcast. Jake Ryks here. That's the salty paramedic over to my what would it be, left?
Left.
And we have our guest here that I'm going to read in for you. Trying a new thing here. We discovered that we had a joint interest in this topic, and we thought we'd tackle it together. So without further ado, our guest has spent years in the forests of Appalachia investigating one of the most famous and controversial creatures in American folklore. He's the founder of the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Organization, a field investigator, and someone who has interviewed literally hundreds of eyewitnesses who all claim to have seen the same thing. So whether you're a believer or a skeptic, to say you aren't interested would be a lie. So hopefully, to provide some clarity, we're going to welcome to the show our guest, Mr. Charlie Raymond.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Me and Salty were talking last week when we did his podcast, and he connected me up with you. He thought that you might be the guy to talk to, and sure enough, after a while of searching for someone that's knowledgeable about this, we found him. So I'm pretty excited to do it. And so, all right, here's how you start off, a podcast of this nature. I think the only question to start with is why and how did you get into this?
Okay. Yeah. I'm not originally from Kentucky. I was born in Florida, and I lived down West Palm Beach, not too far from the Everglades. And God loved my dad. He would tell me bedtime stories of the skunk ape, and then he would shut the light off and shut the door. Good luck going to sleep.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And actually, it's ironically just recently on, I think it was Expedition Bigfoot, they talked about the skunk ape in Lantana, Florida, which is right next to my city where I lived. I lived in Palm Springs, and Lantana is right there. And multiple law enforcement officers had seen the creature. And again, me not knowing I didn't know anything about it. I was a young kid, but there was some truth to some of the stories my dad was telling me. And I didn't even realize that. And luckily I didn't, because I lived a normal childhood. I went to the University of Florida, and luckily I didn't know about Bigfoot there, because, studies and girls and all that good stuff. But the Ocala National Forest has a lot of Bigfoot sightings right near Gainesville. So I'm glad I didn't know anything about it then. And then fast forward, I moved to Kentucky about 30 years ago, and it's beautiful here. And I go, gosh, there's got to be Bigfoots. I made the website, KentuckyBigfoot.com. And I started getting all these reports. People would call me or email. Back then we didn't have social media. So back then people weren't doing it for likes, subs, followers like we do now. So I thought it was amazing that they would take sometimes an hour to 2 hours to talk to me on the phone. And then, better yet, they'll meet me on location, taking their time, their gas money to show me where they saw the creature. I'm like, God, there's got to be something to this. And then afterwards they thank me. They're like, thanks for listening. My own family does not believe me. So that's what got me hooked. And then I started taking reports. And to date, I have close to 800 documented, I think, credible eyewitnesses that I've interviewed.
How do you make the leap from like the childhood stories to now being like someone that wants to go like boots on the ground in the hunt? Like that leap, like from, I grew up hearing Bigfoot stories too. But I never was like, I'm going to find a Bigfoot. Right. And so something else happened in you, I have to imagine, that made you make that leap.
I think what it was, I enjoy the outdoors. So hiking, camping, fishing. So it was a perfect tie-in. It gives me a reason to go out. And I'll give you a funny story. When we first moved here, I would go on the BFRO.net. They're the national database. And I would look up reports. And I found one down by LBL, the land between the lakes. And I was going on a family vacation. We're taking the boat, taking my kids, but I wanted to find a campground that there were Bigfoot sightings, just for the heck of it. And I found one. I did not tell my kids, did not tell my family. I was the only one who knew about the Bigfoot sightings. So, we spend our weekend there fishing and hiking and camping and all that good stuff. Well, I knew where the sighting was. So one day I took my boys, and they were maybe 10 and 8. And just us three went out to the front of the campground on a really dense trail, like thick foliage. It was, you could barely walk. It was so thick. You're surrounded like a tunnel. So you're kind of like going through this dark tunnel, even though it's late in the afternoon, it's not dark. You're kind of going through this thick vegetation, and you're walking on this trail, and I'm in front, and we jumped a deer. And the deer sprang up and ran, and I screamed like a little girl. And I went, oh my God. And my son, Zach, he goes, Dad, that was a deer. Like, come on. Mm-hmm. And I didn't tell him about Bigfoot. He had no idea I had Bigfoot on the brain at the time. Later on, I told him, why I was scared. but yeah, it's a thrill. The thrill of the hunt, tied in with nature, the outdoors. It gives you a reason to go out there. And then meeting these credible witnesses. I've interviewed law enforcement, park rangers, military on Fort Knox, who've all seen Bigfoots in Kentucky. And the more you do that, the more you go out, the more you have close encounters, the more you talk to these witnesses, you get hooked. It's an addiction.
Mm-hmm. I want to talk about that. So I'm from Kentucky. I actually introduced him to Jake because a few years ago, my son was very, very into Bigfoot, probably for a year or two. But just like most boys, he moves on to something else. He's into football now. But we went and saw you speak at our local public library, and it was an awesome presentation. But moving into that, being from Kentucky, I'm sure you're part of this Bigfoot festival. Or have you been there?
Yes.
My father-in-law told me about it, so I believe it's been going on for a few years now, and we weren't able to come because we've been on vacation both years, but he just talked about like the sheer magnitude of it, like how many people showed up, because that's where he lives, is where they have it, and he was just talking about how huge it is, what the turnout was. So can you just talk about this Bigfoot festival and what goes on and your experiences?
Sure. So last year, a couple of years ago, there's an old drive-in in Stanton, Kentucky. I thought, man, that would be really neat to show the legend of Boggy Creek. It's a classic, Bigfoot movie. And then also maybe give a couple presentations, like myself and another local researcher, on the evidence that we've collected, and then show the movie on the big screen at a drive-in. That didn't work out, but the tourism got wind of it. And they're like, well, let's do a festival. I go, okay, but you need to be prepared. And I can tell them over and over again, get ready. And sure enough, we shut down the county. The parkway coming in there was a traffic jam. Unfortunately, some people had to turn around and go home. Mm-hmm. But we estimated over, I think, 12,000 people tried to attend this little town. And it was crazy. I mean, everybody loved it. We had some parking issues, which this year we've worked those out. We've got better parking this time. That last year was our first year. So we learned a little bit from the first year, but again, it's free. The presentations are free. Dr. Maria Mayer, she's a primatologist. She'll be speaking on Bigfoot. Russell Accord from Expedition Bigfoot, Adam Davies, world-renowned cryptozoologist, Ken Gerhard, also world-renowned cryptozoologist, Lau Blackburn, you know him from The Legend of Boggy Creek and all the documentaries on TV. Myself, the Turtle Man, of course, we have to have the Turtle Man. So,
yeah.
And people don't know this about the Turtle Man. He had a sighting in Kentucky.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, when he was squirrel hunting.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was one of the first ones to videotape him.
Oh, were you
When we went
really?
out to his house.
So, this is, all this would make it seem like Kentucky is the epicenter of the Bigfoot hunt. But, traditionally it's kind of tagged to the Pacific Northwest, and you spent the vast majority of your time in Appalachia. Can you kind of talk to me about maybe that misconception about where these creatures potentially are?
Okay. So you just opened a big can up here because I got a lot to kind of go over with you. But so there's different beliefs, opinions on what Bigfoot is. Okay. Some researchers believe it's flesh and blood, a yet to be classified hominid closely related to us. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a Denisovan or something similar. Denisovans were larger than us. We think, the flesh and blood people think, it came across the Bering Strait land bridge to North America like most animals, and it dispersed across the country. Way back before the internet, before white man was here, every Native American tribe has Bigfoot in their oral traditions. Every single one of them in North America does. They have different names for them. So Bigfoot spread out across the country and found these areas where there's forest, shelter, food. There's not as many reports in Kansas, say, for example. There are no reports in Hawaii. But if you look to the United States, they're in Kentucky, they're in Florida, they're in Alabama, every place you can imagine where there's forest, there are Bigfoot sightings. And the reason why Kentucky has so many, we're the top 5, is because we live in their backyards. They live in our backyards. It takes 2 things to have a sighting: a Bigfoot and a witness. Mm-hmm. And that's why we have so many sightings here.
Interesting. I also have read that you have a theory that, maybe they don't always live in the dense underbrush or the dense forest, and maybe are more closely associated with, human civilization, but just are my good at hiding.
Yes. Yeah, because like I said, a lot of houses here in Kentucky, we live in the wilderness. My backyard is Daniel Boone National Forest, my backyard right now. They're used to us. They've learned. So here's the thing. They're highly intelligent. It's not a big, dumb gorilla. If it was a big, dumb gorilla, we'd have it in a cage by now. These things are highly intelligent. They've adapted over thousands of years to stay away from us. They know we kill things, right? So they've learned that. Legend of Boggy Creek, in that movie, it depicts real life encounters where they shot at some Bigfoots in Folk, Arkansas. So we had shot at them many times before. They know that. So now they learned just to keep far enough away from us. Their senses are far more superior. Their eyesight, hearing, smell, sixth sense. They use those for their survival. We don't use those anymore. Technology, we don't need eyeglasses, hearing aids. Our senses are getting worse. Theirs are getting better because they rely on them for their survival, to elude us, to evade us. And that's why they've existed this long. Now, they will come up and look in windows, your bedroom window, your car window. They're very curious, but they're smart. They pick their opportunities when to observe us.
But so you say you interview all these people. Is that solely what you do, or do you ever actually go on Bigfoot hunts yourself?
Oh yeah, I go out a lot. I go out, of course. I never go by myself. I go by myself sometimes, but
don't tell the wife. Yeah.
Well, walk us through what a normal day of Bigfoot hunting is for you. Like, what do you do to prepare and going through it?
So people that want to do this, I encourage people to do it because it gets the kids off technology, gets them outside. They appreciate nature. So that's a huge plus right there. In science, we haven't discovered all the animals on this earth. Every year there's hundreds of new animals. A lot of them are mammals that we're still discovering. So cryptozoology is looking for these hidden animals. And again, when you go out there with your family on a hunt or friends, I tell everybody the best way to have an encounter is not to wear camo, to bring a gun, trying to sneak up on them. They're too smart. They know what hunters do. They stay away from hunters. But if you go out like happy-go-lucky campers, hikers, and you laugh, you play music, you cook food, do your normal stuff, but do it in an area where there's been lots of sightings. Do your research. Go to bfro.net, go to kenkukybigfoot.com, look at where the reports are, go there. Whether you tell your family or not, it's up to you, but while you're there, they are curious. They will come up and observe you. And then you try your tree knocks, multiple tree knocks, a tree knock with a whoop, a tree knock with a whistle. They use those to communicate. And you might get one knock back or whistle back. If you do too much, they might throw a rock. They might push a tree over, and then you leave.
Yeah. So in all the, multi-hundreds of these stories you've taken in, like there has to be a certain amount of them that you deem as non-credible for whatever reason, through discernment or whatever.
Yeah.
About what percentage, or I guess there's kind of two levels of questions. What percentage do you deem credible versus non-credible? And then what are the factors of the stories that make you lean one way versus the other?
Okay, that's a great question. I would say over 90% are credible, legit, that they really saw something. Now, whether they saw a bear or a person, that's different. I got to kind of go through the questioning to decide, was it misidentification? Did they really see a bear? So I think 90% of them or more are credible. There's only a few bogus ones where people lie for attention.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you one example. In Ohio, I speaking at a conference. A guy said he saw Bigfoot. Can I do an interview? Sure. Walked outside. I took my phone, videotaped him. He saw Bigfoot on a trail hiking. He came face to face with it. I said, well, how long did you stand there? 15 minutes.
They're hanging out.
I go, okay. Right away, no. And then he saw a couple of dogmen and, other cryptids. It was too much, it was too much. And so when I get a red flag like that, I don't do not add it to my database. There's been a couple that I actually thought were legit. I found out later they were not legit. And I immediately deleted them off my YouTube channel, off my website. I don't want to be known as the researcher that has Bigfoot on the brain, that every twig snap is a Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. My credibility means everything to me. And I think a lot of people know that I'm level-headed, like the ghost shows that Taps used to say, mm-hmm. When in doubt, throw it out.
Yeah.
What would you say out of all your experiences, what's the closest encounter you've ever had?
Oh gosh, I've had a lot. There's a lot, and people, the naysayers are going to be like, well, how come you didn't run towards it?
Yeah.
How come you didn't get a video of it or a picture of it? Mm-hmm. Most of these, you're with one person or maybe a couple people. You're miles back, no gun. We don't carry guns. We don't use flashlights. We use red headlamps. A little bit more discreet on that. If you go around shooting a flashlight or a laser beam in the woods all around, kind of like they do on TV, a Bigfoot is not going to stick around. It's going to leave the area. So if you're a little bit more discreet about what you're doing with the lighting, laugh, talk normally, and then try your knocks and whoops and whistles. So I've been close many, many times. And I'm not going to tell the Girl Scout story because I just told the Girl Scout story, I think it was 2 nights ago, for like the 100th time. So I'll share another one, and it's a simple one.
Mm-hmm.
It's simple. I was scouting an area near Bernheim Forest in Kentucky. It's where Jim Beam is.
Okay.
So the Bigfoots like the distilleries, just to let you know. But seriously, a lot of Bigfoot reports by Jim Beam. Fact is, the sheriff deputy had multiple sightings back there. A park ranger had multiple sightings in Bernheim, 2 different park rangers in Bernheim. I've had my own experiences. I've had dozens of witnesses. I'll give you one example of one, then I'll tell my story. We were back there one time on a little dirt road, parked back in the woods with the truck, the lights off, sitting there. Fact is, the dirt road was kind of like an abandoned road, okay, like an old logging trail. And we thought we were alone. We had the windows down. We're just listening. A truck starts coming up the road, and we're like, "Oh crap! It's the sheriff," you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And so it comes up, and there's some big old boys in the truck, and they go, "Hey, what are y'all doing back here?" And I thought we were in trouble. I go, "Well, what are you doing back here?" And he goes, "We're coon hunters. We're looking for our dog." Or dogs, whatever. And then he goes, "What are you doing?" I go, "Do you really want to know?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "We're Bigfoot researchers." His eyes got big. He rolled down the window all the way down, put his arm out the truck. He goes, "I saw one." I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, I swear." I said, he told me what happened. I go, "Can you meet me back here on another occasion? And can I videotape your testimony?" He said, "Yes." On another night, I met him there in a parking lot, videotaped him. He was driving on that road, Claremont Road, and right at the end of his headlights saw 2 large, hairy, bipedal legs run across the road. He said, "I know it was not a bear. I mean, it was on 2 legs."
Mm-hmm.
I could not see the upper torso. Just 2 big hairy legs ran right in front of my truck. That was his story. It wasn't much to it, but if you're going to make up a story, I would think it'd be more far-fetched, right? It had big teeth and it came at me. Or it was simple, but I could tell by his enthusiasm, his sincerity. I mean, I could just tell he wasn't making that up. And then he went on camera. And this was that's on my YouTube channel. That's probably 10 years ago or more. So he has a lot to risk. Most witnesses have everything to lose and nothing to gain by coming forward. So that's the area, just to let you know. So we were back there, me and this guy. He had contacted me about some tracks he had found. And I said, "Well, you're in a hot spot," because his property is on the backside of Bernheim. So I met him there one day in February, freezing cold. It was like raining. It was really a bad idea to go out. It was on a Sunday around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Met him at his house. We walked into his backyard and went up through the woods, and we found a power line cut which went up the mountain. So we walked up the power line cut, and we're talking, just sharing stories, and I'm explaining Bigfoot research to him. And we get almost to the top, and we see an old ATV trail to our left. I go, "Hey, let's go down that ATV trail." So we turned down that trail, walked about 100 yards into the woods, and I tell them we do tree knocks. We believe Bigfoots communicate by knocking on trees, hand claps, mouth pops, whistles, whoops. They do that for location, to locate each other, or sometimes to warn if a human is present. One loud knock, home run knock, is a warning that there's people present. So I kind of have a theory about what these things mean. So I said, "Well, we do knocks." So I look around and I found a stick, not even that big. And with the back of my hand, I hit the tree 3 times. Because 3 means something. I don't know what it means, but it works. I can't tell you. So I did it. I am not exaggerating. I wish that guy was sitting here right next to me because he would tell you. Immediately, a knock comes back, loud, across the trail in the woods. And now this is February, so there's no leaves on the trees. You can see pretty good, right? But it's a cold, damp, gray day, you know. So I'm looking, I go, oh my God. And his eyes got big, and my eyes got big. I go, hold on. So I go over to another tree and I do it again. It did it again. It did it 2 times to my knocks. And then I tell my buddy, I want to see it. I want to see him. So I walk further into the woods. The guy that was with me is an MMA fighter, big guy, right? Mm-hmm. I turn around. He did not follow me into the woods. He stayed on the trail. So I look back and he's not following me. So then I made a whoop, because they whoop, right? And I'm looking at him. I cannot see him. Now, the terrain drops down into a holler. So it goes down in this big gully or whatever you want to call it. So I can't see him. There's too many trees. Even though there's no green on them, it's still thick. I'm looking. I heard nothing back after my whoop. Interesting thing. I remember turning around at that point. I'm about, not even, I would say 50 yards into the woods. I look back at my buddy on the trail there. He had a bright blue winter jacket on, right? I couldn't see him. It just goes to show you how Bigfoot, with that camouflage and no movement, long as there's no movement and you're camouflaged, nobody's going to even know you're there. I couldn't see my buddy with the blue jacket on, which is crazy. So then I come up and he's pointing at his ear and he's going like this. I go, what? He goes, another knock came after your whoop, but it was down there. I go, okay, good. So we went through the woods and now the rain is coming down harder. My hands are frozen. His hands are frozen. Nothing else happened. We decided to leave. I know that's a simple story, but one thing I wanted to add to that story, we did not stop. I strongly believe this. We didn't stop at that location where a Bigfoot just happened to be. I believe that Bigfoot followed us. It paralleled us down in that holler down there, and it was walking adjacent to us, keeping an eye on us because it heard us talking. And that's the only reason it was right there, next to us. Because the probability of stopping at a random spot and there's a Bigfoot, a couple hundred yards away is rare. So I do think they're very inquisitive. They want to keep tabs who's in their living room, And so that was a great one. I got another one there too. I'll tell you another good one from that area.
Yeah.
My brother was a skeptic. He never went out with me. And one day the sheriff deputy that had the sighting behind his house back there, he agreed to meet me. I went out with him at 3 a.m. until 3 a.m. Him and his partner with pistols. They had their guns on them, these 2 sheriff deputies. We went back in the woods looking for Bigfoot, behind his home. 2 times they drew their pistols and I backed up because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get shot here in the crossfire because they heard movement. And that sheriff deputy showed me his arm. He goes, man, look at the goosebumps on my arm. I do not like being back here because he's had multiple sightings. So anyway, I told my brother about that. I go, hey, bro, 2 sheriff deputies went with me looking for Bigfoot because one sheriff deputy saw it multiple times. He goes, no, really? I go, yeah, I'll take you there. I arranged another meeting with the sheriff deputy during the day and my brother and another researcher. The sheriff deputy's son, who was 10 or 12. We spent the entire day back there, up on this ridge, down in the holler. I mean, everywhere, off trail, looking for tree structures, looking for tracks. At the end of the day, around dusk, we were coming back out of the woods, kind of, and I do multiple knocks with my bat. I think 3. Immediately something knocked back to us. I go, oh my gosh, we got something. Hold on. I do it again. It does it again. It's knocking back to me directly. Now, we're on this little trail. It's me, another researcher, my brother, and then the sheriff deputy and his son. My brother hears the sheriff deputy tell his son, boy, when I tell you to run, I want you to run. Oof. Here's the sheriff deputy again with his pistol telling his son, when I tell you to run, I want you to run. And they start leaving. And I go, wait, come back. We got something's knocking to us. The sheriff is leaving now, leaving us out there. And my brother looks, because it's only dusk. You can see still, in a cedar thicket, there's one tree doing this. Whoa. Like shaking violently. He goes, hey, bro, look at that tree over there. I mean, it was like this. No other tree was moving. I go, hey, that's intimidation. Something is shaking that tree. That's intimidation. And we look at each other. Okay, let's go.
Yeah.
We didn't go towards it. So that's what people don't get. It's a different scenario when you're out there and you know your surroundings. You know it's remote. You know it's not a person. You're pretty sure. You don't go running towards it. It's just that fight or flight kicks in. I hate to say it. I wish I can go back many times and do it over again. Mm-hmm. But we left. We had to find the sheriff because we had to find our way out of there. So we had to catch up to him. My brother tells that story all the time.
Yeah. Did it convert him?
Yeah. Well, he won't admit it like 100%.
Of course. So you talked about probability during that. So when you think about going out on these, expeditions, what percentage of the time when you go to these high density sighting areas are you having some sort of unexplainable experience or relatively maybe explainable experience if you know what you're looking for?
All right. I'll be honest. It's low. Mm-hmm. Less than 50% of the time. Mm-hmm. I would say more around 20, 25%, a quarter, maybe a quarter of the time. Now, if you bring a bunch of newbies, people that have never done it before, you're going to have all kinds of activity because every twig break is a Bigfoot, Yeah. And it's contagious because, one person hears something, then another person hears it, and another person hears it. And all of a sudden it's like, it's a squirrel, but so I got to kind of be nice to them. I got to kind of let them know. I think that's an acorn, a nut. That's a nut that fell, hit a down log. That's a woodpecker. That's a barred owl. Barred owls make crazy sounds. I got to kind of let them know that, it wasn't Bigfoot. But there's been other times where I've been with a group of people and we all experienced the return knocks, the whoops, the bluff charges. And I get more excited when I take people out there for the first time and they experience a bluff charge or return knocking and whooping because they talk about it forever now. They're like, man, remember that first time you took me out and we had that interaction? I go, yeah, I remember that. That was good. That was a good one.
Mm-hmm. I've heard you talk about the idea of being a believer and a knower. Can you break that down between the two differences between those two things?
Yeah, it's kind of simple. A believer is like myself, someone that I'm 99.9% sure they exist, but I've never seen one. I've been close many times. I might have seen 2 of them about 100 yards away across a creek, all black, in a Bigfoot hot spot down there by the Geneva Bottoms, down by Owensboro, in a Bigfoot active area. During the day, I saw 2 all black things cross a creek, kind of look like the arm swing. I couldn't see pants. I couldn't see skin, hats. There were no trucks. We drove around to where they went. There were no trucks, came back. Went into the woods, walked in, it was swamp, no trucks. So what were those? They could have been, but I'm not for certain. A knower is a person that has seen one up close or pretty obvious. A class A, we call them, where you're pretty sure it wasn't a bear, it wasn't a person. That looked like a Bigfoot. That's a knower.
I know your big thing is Bigfoot, but like as far in regards to other unexplainable things or aliens, chupacabra, everything. What's probably the second most thing that you believe in and you like to talk about or learn about?
Well, I believe in aliens. There's too much. The government just declassified all those reports, and now they're coming forward with it. So yeah, aliens for sure. I like watching Ancient Aliens. I don't believe everything was aliens, but
yeah,
I like watching it. I like ghost hunting. I've had one really good ghost encounter. I don't really go out ghost hunting much anymore, or I never did that much before. I believe in the other cryptids, but not as much as Bigfoot. See, Bigfoot, we can explain that it was a hominid like us. In the last 50,000 years, I believe there's been 8 different hominids on this planet in 50,000 years. The Denisovans, Neanderthal, Homo sapiens. We have Neanderthal DNA in us, depending where you're from, or we have Denisovan DNA in us. So we had relations with these other hominids. Now, Neanderthals were smaller, but the Denisovans were larger skulls, larger eye sockets. Maybe Bigfoot is related to a Denisovan. So I could look at Bigfoot and say there's too many reports. Bigfoot's the number one cryptid because it has the most reports on record. You can link it back to a known species. Other ones, I don't know what they are. The Mothman, I don't know what that is. Yeah, I believe in it because there's been too many sightings, but what is that? What is a Dogman? I can't pinpoint where those come from. They could be paranormal, supernatural. They could go through portals and in and out of dimensions, maybe. I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest. I believe Bigfoot doesn't do that. Some researchers believe Bigfoots can mind speak, cloak, turn invisible. Maybe. I'll say maybe, but I kind of doubt it.
Yeah. So imagine you were brought to a court of law and you had, your 2 or 3 minutes, however long, to make your case based off of evidence that you feel like you could present. What would be the angle you would take to defend the Bigfoot case?
I would, number one, bring these credible witnesses, the military sergeants that I've talked to, sheriff deputies, people with everything to lose. Their credibility means everything. They're trained observers. Bring them on record and testify. I would also bring the tracks. We have a lot in Kentucky of amazing tracks that the late Dr. Meldrum has vouched for those tracks, that they're not made by stompers and they're made by a living, breathing creature that leaves a dynamic footprint that changes as it walks through the terrain. I would bring the DNA, which we collected, and it doesn't match any known species in the gen bank. It has Homo sapien in it a lot of times, and then some unknown hominid in it. So these are DNA samples. These are hairs, which we come back, and the hairs are long, coarse. There's no cellular medulla in the center of it. And that's where you get the maternal DNA. They're almost like they're clear, hollow, like a polar bear. Polar bears are not white. They're clear. Their hair is not white. Their hair's clear, but they look white because the light will absorb or refract around the bear. I believe Bigfoot has the same property with its hairs. It could refract light, bend light, absorb light, and allow the Bigfoot to blend in better with his surroundings. It goes back to that adaptation I was talking about that lets them survive.
Mm-hmm. So if you were forced to, for the sake of conversation, take the other side, what would be your case against Bigfoot if you had to do it?
Well, the number one case would be, where's the body?
Mm-hmm.
There should be a body by now. There should be bones by now. And then I would argue back. I would argue with myself. I would say, okay, number one, here we go. Ready? The government knows they've covered up some Bigfoots that were killed, even on Fort Knox and I got other examples where I've interviewed the witnesses where I believe the government knew about it and they covered them up. They may bury their dead. I've found large burial mounds, all the rocks the same size, looks like a giant body in the woods. I'm not going to dig it up. It could be Native American, but could it also be a Bigfoot? We don't know. So maybe they bury their dead. We know, I'll give you an example before When I speak at libraries and conferences, I will ask the audience, how many hunters do we have in the audience? And we get a couple that raise their hands. I go, in Kentucky, we have black bear, right? Yeah. I go, any of you hunters or even you hikers, have you ever seen a bear skeleton in the woods? Not a one. Because there's not that many of them. There's less Bigfoots than black bear. Okay. Secondly, we know a sick apex predator, when it's sick and dying, it will go off and hide. We find mountain lion skeletons like under a ledge way back in the woods, way off trail. So when it does that, it only takes 1 month. Monster Quest did this with a deer carcass. Monster Quest put a time-lapse camera on a deer carcass. Took 1 month for every piece of that deer to be consumed by other animals, porcupine, et cetera, that would eat the bones. There's video now, you could find it anywhere, on game cameras where deer are seen eating other deer's bones because they're highly nutritious. So what I'm getting at is it only takes about a month for every piece to vanish. And if they go off and hide in these hills and hollers that are too steep, too deep, we're lazy, we don't want to go up there, we didn't want to go down there. By the time we get there, the bones are gone. Let me add one more thing to it. We have had many documented, recorded, I won't say sightings, of giant human-like skeletons, especially around the Ohio Valley region, but all over the United States. There are old newspaper articles of these 8, 9, 10, 12-foot giants, human-like, in these newspaper articles, way back, right? I don't think it was clickbait. It was too far back where this Farmer Bob was plowing his field and he hit this giant skeleton, it was 10 foot tall. Where'd that go? So the Smithsonian, I think it was in the 80s, they hired a guy, I'm going to hopefully get it right, Colonel John Powell. He put a stop to all these giant skeletons for whatever reason. So what did the Smithsonian do with those giant skeletons they had? So there's this conspiracy, thing that the government hides everything. And I know you're going to ask me the next question, why would the government hide them? So just speculation, but money, who gets the forest for logging, for shopping centers? Okay. Secondly, who gets the forest to hike? Do the Bigfoots get it? Is it a protected sanctuary now? Or do we get to stay there and fish and hike and camp? So there's a big dilemma there. It's not a spotted owl, which we protected. This is something that's big, kind of scary, could hurt us, has families. So maybe they have feelings. Who gets the forest now? Do their families get it, or do our families get it? So that's why I think there's a cover-up.
I don't know if we could possibly touch on Bigfoot without talking Patterson-Gimlin footage, right?
Yeah.
The classic Bigfoot footage, still yet to be debunked. Taken, I believe in 67.
Yeah.
right?
You're
So talk to me about that, and what your opinion of it is. Are you skeptical of the footage? There's a lot of conspiracy that comes around that particular footage. What's your take on it?
All right, so I have not seen the latest documentary, which they claim it was a hoax.
Mm-hmm.
I have spoken with and read up on researchers that I value their opinion, their knowledge. Matt Moneymaker, for one. If you go to Matt Moneymaker's Facebook or his Facebook page, the BFRO.net, his Facebook page, you can see him break it down. He has two really good explanations for it. I'll just tell you in a nutshell. Here's the controversy. Roger was looking at making a movie about Bigfoot before Patty, right? But then when Bob met him, they were out also looking for Bigfoot as well to film one. Besides that, after they filmed Patty, they went and filmed some B-roll they went and got a suit and they filmed a reenactment. A lot of TV shows now will have a suit with them and they'll do reenactments of what the witness saw, what they saw. Mm-hmm. The suit is horrific. I mean, bulky, and doesn't even look anywhere near Patty. And Patty, you can see the muscles contract. You can see a large hematoma on the thigh bulge out and go back where it has some damage done to the the bands there of the quad. And it's like, when you get an injury, it sticks out and goes back. If you look at the original footage, now people that have copies of artifacts will form in copies. So if you take a picture of a picture of a picture, something blurry can actually look like, oh, it's got something in his hand. There's nothing in his hand. It was just because it was blurry and you took another copy of it. Another copy doesn't look the same. So you have to take the original. Their documentary, if you look back at the timestamps, supposedly was filmed after, on the Kodak film, if they analyze it, was filmed after Patty was filmed, not before. So it's really a reenactment. It doesn't even compare from the people that I've talked to. I'm waiting for video experts, not even cryptozoologists, not even anthropologists or Bigfooters. I'm talking about film experts. I want them to put the original and the supposed hoax, the staging. Supposedly, it's Roger's son, which I believe is trying to cash in now. His dad has been dead a long time. Now Bob is, getting up there in age. Can't really defend himself. I think it's a money grab. I think he's doing this now to sell it, get as much money as he can for it. But when it comes out and we can have the experts look at it side by side and say, okay, yeah, this matches up, I will accept it. I will say, yeah, darn it, Mm-hmm. But I don't think it's going to happen. I think it's going to come back as it's still a big bulky suit. It doesn't match up at all. So, but I will admit if it's proven wrong, I will admit it. And I'll be disappointed. And the people out there that say, oh, so what? Bigfoot's still real. I agree. Bigfoot's still real. Doesn't matter if it is a hoax, Bigfoot's still real. But it is a disappointment because that's one of the best pieces of footage we as researchers point to. Mm-hmm. Look at the Patterson Gimlin and blah, blah, blah. It's been analyzed by Dr. Meldrum, Munns, who spout Hollywood special effects, John Green, a well-respected researcher. I can go on and on and on about these people that analyze that footage who say it's real. And so that's something that would be heartbreaking if it wasn't real.
Mm-hmm. So the thing, my initial question about that when I think of it is, of all, like the difference of life from the 60s to now, right? In the 60s, nobody had a camera on them ever. And now everyone has a camera on them always. Mm-hmm. Why would it be that the only or maybe not the only, but the most credible footage of all time happens to be from that era and not from now.
Yeah, there are more out there that we think is real. The Memorial Day footage, the Freeman footage. Freeman footage was a park worker that was actually making casts. And one day, and he was actually filming, and he saw Bigfoot, and you've seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Bigfoot, we believe. So there are other videos out there. The reason now, and I'll tell you with cell phones and game cameras, and I'll go to game cameras first. I have a couple good pictures from a game camera that look amazing. But the two witnesses they will not let me release them. They don't want hunters to hunt them on their property. They don't want the media knocking on their door. They don't want to be ridiculed by their neighbors. They will not let me release those two photos I have. That's one issue. The other issue is we believe they can see the IR from the cameras, the infrared. They can see that spectrum. They can smell the petroleum in the plastic. They can sense the EMF, which it puts off. If you put a game camera in your living room, if I snuck in and put one in your living room, you're probably going to notice it. So a Bigfoot's smart, is going to see it, it can smell it, it can see the IR. It's going to avoid game cameras. That's one thing. Phones, right? I do this all the time on my presentations. Well, not back at the library you went to, but now I do it. I'll be on stage and I'll talk about this. I go, how come we don't have more pictures? I go, I'm going to do an experiment. They're looking at me like, what? Yeah, I'm going to do an experiment. So I turn sideways and I go, take my picture, and I walk off the stage. I think one person was able to get my picture one time. And their phones are in their laps. So they got to get their phone out, get to the camera, and I'm gone in seconds. Most sightings are seconds. They're not long sightings. The Bigfoot just doesn't stand there and wave. Well,
that one guy on the trail that talked to him for 15 minutes.
Yeah. That 15 seconds maybe, but
yeah.
I've got hunters that have seen them in scopes. In Anderson County, Kentucky, there's a gentleman was in his tree stand, and he saw two Bigfoot cross the field under his scope. One was big, dark. The second one was a little bit shorter, lighter in color. They crossed 100 yards in about 10 seconds. What's really strange about it too, he said 3 times they turned at the waist and they looked behind them. Like they're looking at something behind them. What's chasing the Bigfoot,
Yeah.
But he watches them, and I ask him, like everybody else, well, why didn't you shoot them? Because I didn't know what they were. I go, I'm hunting deer. As a hunter, we're trained to look at the face of the animal to tell is that a dog, is it a deer, is it a person? These things I'm not looking for. I don't know what they are. I'm trying to process it. My brain's going, what in the world? And then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have time to grab my phone. I couldn't shoot it because it wasn't Bigfoot season. It was deer season.
Yeah. So, Lord knows what that fine from the Natural Resource Department would be. Who knows? Gosh. Well, I want to let you get out of here. Salty, you have anything else for him before we let him go?
Yes, I got one more thing. Can you teach me and Jake how to whoop?
Oh, yes. I love this.
Okay. There's no P. You don't pronounce the P.
Whoop.
It's more.
Oh, there's no P on the end. I'm thinking here in my brain, I'm so stupid. I was thinking poop. P-O-O-P.
Oh, kind of like Ric Flair.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Woo. Woo. So I just need to go out in the woods, hit a couple oops, and bang a stick on a tree. And that's how you said 1 is a warning, 3 means something, but we're not sure what. Right.
So I never do 1. Because the one loud one, everything gets quiet afterwards. It's like not like a bluff charge, but it's more like, I don't know if it's intimidation or just letting another one know we got people present, it gets quiet. But when I do 3, I've had a lot of luck getting something to knock back once or 3 times. It depends on the combination. I don't know, but I've had great luck doing 3 evenly spaced with a good, like a little bat or a good stout stick. It seems to work, and they work better than vocals. People that go out there and howl, like if you howl, it's hard to fool them with a howl. They know it's a person. Banging a tree with a stick, it's easier to fool them. They're not replying to you. They think it's another Bigfoot knocking, like, hey, we got people here, and they're knocking to each other. We got people coming.
Okay. So I have one more question before. I just want to get a scope on the potential, what we're looking at. Do you have any form of estimate of how many Bigfoots you think there are in the United States or North America?
It's really hard to say because, we don't tag them. We don't. Sometimes it's the same Bigfoot in the same area. I would say there's, if I went, say, Kentucky, and I did this before, and I try to estimate the areas and the ones I know, there's maybe in Kentucky, maybe 100 to 200. I know that's a wide ratio because some of the same sightings are the same creature because of the physical characteristics. So that can vary a lot. But they say usually when you see one Bigfoot, there's more around when you see one of them. Yeah, they kind of, some rogue ones will leave the pack and they'll go off on their own. But typically they kind of hunt together. They kind of stay together, so to speak. So when you see one, there's more. So a couple hundred in Kentucky, if you did the whole country, some states don't have hardly any at all. There could be a couple thousand, but I wouldn't go 10,000. I would keep it more to like maybe 2 to 10,000 or somewhere in that range. But I worry about them going extinct because pretty soon it's harder. It's going to be harder for them to reproduce because of our development. We're building more shopping centers and highways and such. So I think eventually they may go extinct in certain areas.
Wow. All right, Charlie. Let the people that are listening know where they can find out more information about what you're doing.
Yeah, KentuckyBigfoot.com. You can go there. You can read the reports. You can now go to the YouTube channel, which I've got all the witnesses now. They let me videotape them. So now you can look at their face, tell if they're lying. You can listen to their voice. I love it. So KentuckyBigfoot.com. And if you've had a sighting, you may remain anonymous. Please fill out the form. I will contact you. Even if it wasn't a sighting, I want to hear about it. Coming up May 30th, this May 30th in Stanton, Kentucky is the Red River Gorge Bigfoot Festival. rrgbigfoot.com. You can find it online. Look at all the fantastic speakers, family events. The entire event's free. There might be $5 parking, but the event itself is free. It's a great thing to do with your family. If you're anywhere in Kentucky or the neighboring states, look it up. Book your Airbnb now because they're filling up. So get your lodging and make it a great weekend with your family.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Charlie. For the Salty Paramedic, I'm Jake Ryks. This has been the Dueling Mustache Conspiracy Hour.